Welcome everyone to the Women in Cleantech and Sustainability Get AI into Your Mind and on Your Resume Executive Leadership Workshop. We are so happy that you're all here today. You can advance the slide. Just a quick look at our agenda. We'll take care of some quick introductions. We'll get right into our workshop purpose and activities with the wonderful panelists we have on hand today. We will save some time for Q&A, and we'll do a quick wrap up to get everyone on your way to the rest of your day. Advanced slide. Women in Cleantech and Sustainability fosters an influential network of women and professionals to advance the roles of women in growing the green economy. We hold monthly events in person and virtually. We have a mentorship program coming up in the first quarter and many other events, including our WCS talks coming up in the first quarter of 2025. So watch for information on that. Advance the slide, please. Everyone knows the Zoom etiquette by now, so please just use your best Zoom etiquette possible for the next hour and a half. Advance the slide. Today's sponsors are Product Rehab and First Solar, which is a wonderful champion member of Women in Cleantech and Sustainability. Advance the slide. We have several upcoming events in the month of December. Please do visit our website to check out more information on those events. And please attend if you can. To join Women in Cleantech and Sustainability, you can go to our website, advance the slide. Or you can email us at membership@womenincleantechandsustainability.org for more information. Or of course, you can grab a snapshot of that QR code if you're quick with your phone. Advance the slide, please. And we do have corporate memberships available as well. If you think your company would like to have a broader, bigger membership for its employees, advance the slide. All right, and we also have many opportunities for event sponsorship. If your company or you would like to sponsor an event like this, virtually or in person, let us know and we'll find a right event that matches your company's needs. Advance the slide. And here we go with some of the greatest information that we're going to have in this quarter on artificial intelligence. I'm so happy to introduce you to today's moderator, Darlene Crane from the Crane Works. She is an information professional, market researcher, and has an MBA in finance. She found her path in technology innovation as a large-scale project program and product manager in financial services and utilities. As a consultant, she works with mid-size and small businesses with ESG missions on strategy, growth, product development, funding readiness, and raises. She's a really wonderful person and really has pulled together a wonderful panel for us to hear today. I look forward to seeing what she has to say in the next hour and a half. Over to you, Darlene.
Good morning. Welcome, everybody. I'm very excited to kick this event off, and we have a wonderful panel for you. I just wanted to add one more line about my background in terms of why I'm interested in AI, is that this is a tectonic plate shift in technology, and there's huge flows of funding going into these projects, but it tends to be the flow of money is in the large corporations, and the forecasts are they'll get the largest benefit. And so, since my specialty is small and mid-sized businesses, I'm particularly interested in how we get the value creation and innovation side of AI to the smallest businesses in a way that they can get some of those benefits also. So I also want to, we have a wonderful panel for you. So let's go right into introducing the panelists. So could you please advance the Okay, great. Our first speaker is Jennifer Harrity. She's the Director of Sustainability and ESG at Sensiba LLP. And she brings 25 years of business experience and marketing experience to that role. In addition, she's overseeing the firm's internal sustainability initiatives and reporting. And she also founded the firm's sustainability and ESG practice, where she assists clients in sustainable transformations with a focus on B Corp, EcoVadis, DEI consulting, and impact reporting. So Jennifer, could you add your focus on the direction that you're sort of going with AI?
Absolutely. Thank you, Darlene. And thank you to Women in Clean Tech and Sustainability for having us here today. I work a lot in sustainability, and as we know, that's a lot of data and leveraging AI every day in a lot of the software I use, from calculating carbon footprints to figuring out waste. And it's in almost all of the software I use every day, and probably in a lot of the software that you guys use every day as well. So just kind of sharing my experience in leveraging AI in what I do in my everyday work.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I advance the slide, please. Want to introduce Joanna Carson. She's the marketing lead at Intuitive AI. And so she's in that exciting startup component of AI. She's a marketing communications expert with a knack for crafting impactful strategies that drive growth. Um, she has over 10 years of experience in nonprofits, enterprise marketing, and tech. And she specializes in developing and executing innovative content marketing campaigns that captivate audiences. You can tell how well she writes. As a freelance consultant, she enjoys working with startups worldwide to help them find their voice and shape their brand. And she thrives on creating engaging narratives that resonate and convert target audiences. She's passionate about people, writing, and the power of storytelling. Joanna, could you go describe your focus or um, direction that you're going with AI?
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. It's so nice to be here. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely my LinkedIn bio. A more casual sort of message around that is that I've been in marketing for about 15 years and about in tech for the last 7. Before I moved to Toronto and started working in tech, I was working for NGOs across the world. So in Australia, it was homelessness and housing. In London, it was mental health. And in the US, it was women's rights. And really, when I moved into tech, I saw a real opportunity to continue talking about that and advocating for the power of community building, which is why I'm so excited to be talking to you guys today, because it's a great place to bring people together. I'm not a technical person, but I have benefited greatly from being in tech, which is obviously one of the fastest or the fastest growing industries in history. But I think through my work in community building and in women in tech, where I used to be the COO, there is a huge disparity in sort of the opportunities for women in tech, and we need to keep talking about that, and we need to keep making sure that there are opportunities and new ways to access career opportunities, which is why conversations like this are important. So I'm here from Intuitive AI. We're a sustainability company addressing waste at the source. I can say a bit more about that a bit later on. But I'm also here to show and represent a non-technical person that has been taken advantage of tech as being a booming industry, and share a bit about my experience and how you can do the same. So thanks very much for inviting
Excellent.
me.
Okay, advance the slide. Okay, and this is Dr. Frederick T. Verla, Assistant Dean for Academic Innovation and Learning at UCLA Extension. And and he joined UCLA in 2023 after serving at UC Berkeley since 2018. And he immigrated from Germany, and his work in, let me see, he led accreditation and international relations at business schools in Paris, France, and held faculty and administrative positions in France and the US as an advisor and mentor to startups, nonprofit organizations, and universities across the globe. The core to his work are the development of AI-powered instructional tools and andragogy, I pronounced that right, which are grounded in Frederick's research on innate and learned behavior. And he has a Master's of Science in Biology from the University of Freiburg, Germany, and a PhD in Management Sciences, specializing in consumer behavior from the University of Paris, Pantheon-Sorbonne, France. Okay, so can you translate for us, Frederick, what that means to this audience? What are you bringing today?
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's really a great pleasure to meet with you and share a little bit about what I'm doing. I've been into AI from the neuroscience side of my work and the education side, and that for over a decade is actually what brought me to Berkeley and to UCLA, is the application of AI in education to make learning much, much more effective, like exponentially more effective, which in my opinion is the only way we can provide an opportunity or a chance for the millions of people that are going to be job displaced through AI. I would say in the coming years, but it's gonna come very quickly. So I'm a passionate continuing educator, and I've made it my mission to support people in their quest to stay ahead and to maintain their careers and provide for their families. So very excited to share on that and for the discussion.
Thank you very much. So I hope the audience appreciates what a wonderful set of panelists we have here. And so we're going to try to dive into the discussion right away. But to help everyone, we're doing an opening poll, so we have an idea of your experience with AI. So could we have the poll, please? Just give your answers as quickly as possible, and we'll see what's happening in the audience with AI. You can just... Oh, we can see it moving now. Basics, intermediate. Okay. 50%. All right. Are you doing any career planning? Ah, yes. Doing career planning. Often, every day, occasionally, rarely. Okay, is everybody submitted? Okay, we'll go with this. I think this gives an interesting picture of where we are. Okay. Let's go to the next slide. Oh, yeah, next slide, please. Okay, now we're in the panel discussion and the slides will disappear. I just want to make some opening comments about this. Is that the purpose of this workshop is to motivate you even more to dive into AI, to use it to amplify your voice, to get a really deeper understanding of where your career could go with it, and also very practical experience from the panels, how that can enhance it. And I do agree with Frederick that we have to take charge of our careers over a lifetime. If AI is going to revolutionize how the nature of work, the structure and management of corporations, and all forms of business, we're the ones in charge of how we can make that work for us. I think, but it also is not all about work. So the first question that we're going to go into is what about AI in everyday life? It's going to penetrate that too. It already is. So I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer at this point to kick off that discussion.
Thank you, Darlene. Yeah, it was interesting to see the poll and to see how many of you answered occasionally and rarely to your use of AI. And it's a question I commonly get a response when I talk to people about using AI at work, and they're like, oh, I'm scared to, I don't use AI much. And AI is pretty much already throughout your entire life, and you just probably aren't even aware you're using it. So I have kind of a day in a life from the time you wake up to possibly by the time you're at your desk logging in for work, how much AI and all the different areas that you can possibly be touching AI as you go throughout your morning. So say you wake up, your family wakes up at 5 a.m. Well, your smart thermostat, many of us have Nest's thermostats at home. Your smart thermostat knows this, so it starts warming your house up at 4:45 so that it is at a temperature that's decent to get out of bed in the morning. You've got maybe you wear a smartwatch or an Oura Ring or something when you sleep, and it's analyzing your sleep data so that your alarm goes off at the optimal time in your REM cycle so that you're not jolted awake. Maybe you've got smart lights. So as you come and turn on the lights in the morning, maybe they dim to the day and the light temperature that is needed for the morning. Or maybe it's at night and it starts to take the blue light out of your lights and it brings in more red as you're trying to go to bed at night. Voice assistants, when you get up and maybe you're brushing your teeth and you say, hey Siri, what's the weather today? And it tells you the weather for your area. Or you're now headed off to the gym in the morning because you want to get that exercise in before work. And you've got your fitness tracker on that's monitoring your heart rate. And it notices that you're running on a treadmill and it says, hey, are you for a run? Can we track this, right? So it picks up all that health data and then gives you insights on that. How many calories you've burned, how many steps you've walked a day. You come home, hop in the shower and realize, oh, crud, we're almost out of shampoo. Hey, Alexa, add shampoo to shopping cart. And Alexa says, okay, it'll be here next Tuesday. You've got your shampoo ready for the day. Your coffee pot knows, hey, it's a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and normally they drink coffee at 7:30 in the morning. So it starts brewing at 7:15 because it's a smart coffee pot. When you get into the kitchen, you pour your cup of coffee and you make your morning breakfast. Maybe you're, being more conscious of what you're eating and you're tracking it on a nutrition app. And instead of logging it all, you pull up the barcode scanner and just scan the barcodes of everything. And it automatically pulls in all that data and gives you nutritional facts and recommendations based on the food that you're eating. You're sitting down eating breakfast, pulling up your news feed on your phone or maybe on your computer to kind of get through what news happened overnight. And it's curating what you like to look at. Being all women in sustainability, it's giving us more sustainability leaning news, right? It's giving you maybe the recipe of the day because maybe you're a foodie like me and you want to see what the current recipe trends are. And then it gives you an alert all of a sudden saying, hey, I know you're going to be headed to the office. It looks like there's an accident on your normal route. You need to leave 15 minutes earlier. And you're like, oh no. Chug down the last bit of coffee, hop in the car. The car's navigation already comes up with a route that reroutes you around the accident to get to work on time. And as you're sitting in the car, you realize it's a little chilly. So you hit the button and say, hey, car, turn on my heated seats. I'm cold, right? So all of these ways AI is interacting with you throughout the day. Or maybe it's a sensor on your phone, so that as you walk up to the front door of your office, it automatically unlocks the door because it senses you, right? So there's so many different ways AI is already in your life as you're walking through that you're using, and you're not even aware of it because it's so seamlessly wrapped into everything you do in your personal life. Don't even get me started on your work life and all the stuff already in all of the Microsoft Word type stuff that you're using already. So that is just a little trip down your morning path as you're getting ready.
Okay, so Joanna, do you want to make any comments on that?
I mean, I think that was like a beautiful journey. That was a really, really great representation of just how much you're interacting with. And as Jennifer was speaking, I was just thinking of countless examples of completely different tools and then completely different things about my own life. The thing that came out for me from that is that you might not think that you're interacting or you're not actively engaging with AI, but AI is engaging with you. And so the sooner you sort of understand the depth of which people are tracking you, tracking your data, taking advantage of you having these tools in your life for their own benefit, it's like, well, there's a lot being done around your activity and you as a human being. You may as well be also embracing it and using it for the same purposes and helping it to leverage your life.
Okay, great. Frederick, your thoughts?
Just to add on to this great introduction and perspective, for me, the biggest thing here is the aha moment of it's happening, whether you like it or not. And it's the question is truly of your just consciousness in embracing it. And I know there's a lot of talk about the ethics of using AI and so on and so forth, but I just came from a symposium with groupings or people that are active around community colleges, and they're very bullish about the use of AI in education because they just realize how incredibly impactful and empowering it is to their communities, to their students. And if you think about the copyright potential infringements and so on and so forth, the perspective I've heard from people there is like, this is like a first world privilege problem of not getting your licensing fees for something you have published. As an already privileged person, I want to use it because it helps me in my position in an unprivileged position to actually get ahead and make something out of myself. So there's different ways of looking at this. So there's this, it's happening anyways, but also think about the ethics a little bit deeper of using it, and it might help you really come around to embrace it.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so that was a great kickoff here. Now we're going to move into sort of the meat of what you're here for today, which is career development and amplifying your voice. AI is a great amplifier of things. And we're going to go through a number of questions for to respond to this this topic. And we're going to block out a 5-minute question and Q&A portion just on career development and amplifying your voice, particularly because this is really crucial to women. In this environment, we have to make our voices strong, clear, and powerful. And they're actually, we've had some really interesting discussions along this line. So let's get to the first question, which is why embracing AI is so important. And we're going to have Frederick kick off this discussion.
Yeah, so with my work in continuing education and professional education for over a decade on 2 different continents, in my observation, particularly in the field of sustainability, there are a few key career challenges, and one of the most important one is that especially leadership positions in this field are often precarious. right? And there are usually like three reasons that I observed for this is either there's nothing in an organization. So your position is to basically build everything, and there's very little resources for that. Second one is the organization somehow has that part of it in the ditch, and somebody needs to come in and pull the cart out of the ditch, which takes a lot of unpopular decisions to get it out. Or the third one, it's actually by design a window dressing position that is not meant to last, that the organization builds for a time to be have good PR, but they don't intend to maintain this, right? So now the interesting thing is that research shows that women are disproportionately overrepresented in precarious leadership positions, and that's usually for various reasons, certainly because they are effective in those positions, but also because they're often not so heavily connected. So they come in as an outsider, which means effectively for the insider group that's leading the organization, they are effectively expendable, right? So the moment their job is done, if they quote unquote have taken enough unpopular decisions, they can be taken out of the organization again, and then everything is repaired, and there's a space for one of the organization's leadership's closer connections, if you want, so a buddy. So this phenomenon has been researched over the last 15 years or so, and is called the glass cliff. And really the hallmark of a glass cliff is the chronic under-resourcing in those positions, because they are kind of meant to fail, right? And this is, I think, where AI can be extremely powerful to help identify glass cliff positions. So before going into this type of a position, you can query AI, give it data, and have it analyze the position to help see if it is or not a glass cliff. The second one is to coach you to identify what resources you would actually need to succeed in this position. Oftentimes, people in these types of positions are new to the type of role. So you have the expertise that helps you identify what you need and coach you on how you can negotiate for these types of resources. And then the third one is as your assistant to improve your performance evidently, but also more importantly, maybe as your personal expert in everything you need to empower you in tasks that you have to do yourself when resources are not given to you necessarily. So you have an instant 24/7 access to a lot of expertise that otherwise you would have to tap into network for that you might not have, or have to tap into human resources that you're not allowed to hire. So I see this as a huge advantage in many different ways to identify and provide the support necessary to actually transform a glass cliff position into a glass jumping board for you, and to plan that into the career and get out of a position that is set up for failure by not failing and actually winning.
Yippee. Okay, Joanna, I saw your head nodding there. Would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, it just makes me so mad, right? There's something so real about that glass cliff phenomenon. I also think that on the other side of that, that's a really interesting concept about a role that's meant to fail. There's also a concept around the role that is basically completely overburdened with admin, and the time-consuming, boring churn of admin and the production of that formulaic stuff that doesn't give you the opportunity as a woman in the workplace to show your creativity, to go outside of that, to sort of create space for you to thrive because you are past the busy work. And so I think that's a really exciting part of AI as well, is to just help you churn through that and create space for you to actually be productive in creative ways that are going to add value in a more visible way than a lot of these roles can.
Okay, excellent. Jennifer, your chance.
Oh, I just agree with with a lot that was said. You know, as Justine was pointing out in the chat, yeah, it's a sobering start, but it's definitely, you know, something that I think we've all experienced, you know, that being under-resourced, and AI can really help you. It helps level the playing field for those who are under-resourced, for small businesses that are maybe trying to compete with larger businesses, and need to do a lot of things that AI can help with, help you move faster, help you move quicker. And I think it's going to be a leveling playing field. It's going to help a lot of folks.
I just want to make one comment. I think this was one opportunity with AI that I had not known about at all after 20 years of following women's issues in business. So I was very appreciative of Frederick bringing this term that is apparently much more well-known in Europe. So let's get it across the US, guys. We can work with it, right? Okay. I think the other thing, and let's see, how do you explore getting started? Oh, okay. Our next question is, now that we are excited about this, we realize there are new possibilities out there. How do we get started? And I think, Joanna, you're going to kick this one off with how to work through the stages.
Yeah, and I want to take a beat for a second to sort of share a bit about my own psychological barriers with AI, because I think a lot about tech in general, especially for a non-technical person, is that feeling of like, oh, I don't get it, or people know it more than me, or there's some people that are more loud about it than I am. And that's really nothing but noise, really, at the end of the day, because there's just so many different ways to access technology and education these days. Something that I personally very early on experienced was this feeling of being a writer who now, and a content generator, a marketer, someone that literally was paid to produce things like LinkedIn posts and things like that, had technology that could do it for me or better than me in a lot of different cases. And that was kind of something that I had to sit with for a bit, because initially, and this was years ago, like when Grammarly was out, I had that struggle of going, okay, so am I meant to use Grammarly, or am I meant to be better than Grammarly, or how is this meant to work? Am I meant to tell my employer I use Grammarly? And that was sort of the beginning of me embracing this concept of like, what am I doing? I'm spending so much time and effort and energy trying to be better than AI than actually leveraging it as my assistant. And it was so important for me to get over that personal cliff, and start embracing it and going, you know, Scott Galloway has this great quote that's like, get the easy stuff right. And so if there is a version of your work where you can use something like AI to help you and get the easy stuff right, like grammar, or like writing a sentence you don't have time to do, and it's a totally formulaic sentence that won't change the world if it's AI that writes it and then you know, approve it. It's about embracing the tools in your toolkit, that you can actually start helping you create that space and that productivity, and allow you the time and the resources you need to be more creative and sort of innovative, right? So anyway, that all to say, I think that the best place to start, if you haven't already, is obviously ChatGPT. It is so accessible. It is essentially scraping the internet for information all the time, and it's the best way for you to start playing with generative AI. Now I realize there is a bunch of different privacy concerns and hot topics and hot button issues that are associated with that we can go into. But if it's purely about understanding AI in this new context for the first time and understanding the power of it and why it's becoming the next industrial revolution, which it absolutely is, having a basic understanding or a basic daily use of something like ChatGPT or Claude or any of the other tools that are out there, is going to be absolutely vital. For myself, you know, we're an AI company, and so we are My whole team is using ChatGPT all the time. We've embraced it completely. But I actually do know that a lot of companies aren't like that right now. There's still that push and pull about, is it okay to use? Are we meant to be using it? Are we meant to be using it for brainstorming or producing, etc.? Just a small anecdote, a few months ago, I was at Global Marketers Week. And a similar sort of thing, we had hundreds of people in the audience, and there was a poll that said, how big do you think the impact of AI is going to be on your role in the next year? And me coming from an AI company was like, it's going to be massive, industrial revolution, blah, blah, blah. And the majority of the audience said not that much. And so I think there is a huge disconnect with people that are working in AI and touching AI and understanding it for the magnitude that it is, and people that are sort of hearing about it in the news or in some spaces, but are not actively going into it. So I do think like that's a long way of saying like it's time definitely to like jump in the deep end if you can, but if not, just walk into the shallow end of the pool, learn what ChatGPT is, start using it for really basic things around your life, like, meal plans, exercise plans, whatever it is, to sort of leverage it as a productivity tool and an assistant. And that will definitely get you sort of in the remit of understanding sort of the power that it can be for your personal situation as well.
Okay. Let's see. Jennifer or Frederick, who would like to go first on that one?
I can jump in. Yeah.
Okay.
Joanna was hitting it right on the head, get in and play with it. I travel a lot for work. So, there'll be times where I'm at a conference and the conference ends middle of the day on a Wednesday. My flight isn't until Thursday morning. So I can go in and ask, hey, I'm here, I'm at this, city. I like to do these types of things, and I have this much of time from this time of day to this time of day. What should I go do? And it'll give me a full itinerary list from different museums or different places to go, how much it'll cost, the bus to get from one place to the other, as well as dinner recommendations, right? So it's just, it helps you not have to do a lot of your own kind of personal assistant for yourself, right? And you can leverage it in that way. And there's lots of things to be wary of. Using personalized data in these things should be a big no-no. Lots of industries are, I work in the accounting industry. We're banning it in a lot of areas within our business for folks not to use, because folks have not learned enough about it to use it appropriately. But it shouldn't be a scary thing. You should get in, you should poke around, and as you're, if you're someone who's looking for a job, and you're starting to see AI pop up on job descriptions, don't completely disregard a job because it says it uses AI and you are not as familiar with it. It's very easy to get up to speed on poking around and figuring out how to use tools with AI in them so that you can go after those positions. So don't disregard because you haven't poked at it yet. Get in, poke around. It's not something you can break. So don't be scared, for sure.
Okay, Frederick?
Yeah, my perspective is actually I'm stealing this from Ali Miller, who is a woman entrepreneur who has a very influential LinkedIn learning course on the AI first mindset. It's really fascinating to consider, even though I've been it for a long time, how much my just work routine and even just daily routine always starts with, I have to figure it out, instead of thinking, well, could actually AI figure it out for me? And once you do that shift of systematically, you can create yourself a little post-it and put it on your screen or somewhere that just has AI on it. It's literally what Ellie puts into her class or LinkedIn learning course, where as the, for me, most important tip, as soon as you do that, you can literally use any of the tools and just try to get it to do what you should do otherwise, evidently within responsible use and making sure you're not putting in data you're not allowed or shouldn't put into there. But even in a business environment, for example, I had a very concrete case. We had to do a statement of work. It's like a 5 to 10 page document to get a project going. We were falling behind. I asked our project manager in the morning on a Monday, is like, hey, we're meeting at 4. Do you think you could like make some headway on this? And then we discuss it in our meeting. And he's like, yeah, okay, let me see what I can do in a Slack message in the morning. And then at 1 p.m. he sends the complete thing. And then we meet at 4 and I'm like, oh, this looks like you used generative AI, right? I didn't read it. I just asked him from the speed and he's like, yeah, I just actually thought that I will never be able to do this, and then tried it with generative AI and completed the whole thing in record time. We went through it in our meeting, sent it over to our legal team. They came back then in a few hours, perfect, and here we go. So we had a collective 10 hours of work shrunk into not even a collective 1 hour of work, right? And so you have incredible, what I've seen in my environment, 4 to 10 times increase in speed for all of these little tasks that are actually, well, for AI, they're little tasks. For us, they're big tasks. So this AI first mentality for me is the key to change on all levels.
Oh, okay.
I'd love to step in there because I love that that comment. And one thing that has been really powerful and impactful for me is helping me read terms and conditions in my life and also in the workplace, because I'm just not doing that. And there's too many things in life and in adulting that you're signing contracts, you're signing agreements, you're making payments, things like that. And what I'm finding is that if I can just prompt, AI, ChatGPT to give me the top 10 takeaways from the terms and conditions, what I'm protected against, what I'm protected for, I'm actually equipping myself with so much more information I wouldn't have had normally. And so I think that's incredibly powerful, because, a lot of contracts kind of rely on you not not reading the terms and conditions, right? So I think that's really, really important.
Okay. Thank you very much. We got a lot of content into there. Okay. So the next big question to go to is, how can AI help women in particular, or anybody and women in particular, amplify their voices and, in a sense, amplify their careers? And I think we were going to have Joanna kick off on that. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much being done in different areas. Like with anything with AI, you can slice and talk about it in very different ways. Genuinely massive, big problems are being solved with AI right now. There's a lot of health tech, for example, female health tech that is coming out with AI that is changing how we understand women's health. That's massive. That alone will be able to help women in the quality of women's lives overall. And as we know, you raise the standard of living for women, you raise the standard of living for a community overall. So that's just really, really exciting, the progress that's being made there. The two things that I kind of want to talk to in terms of a career is first of all, AI is going to change the workplace and it's going to change the types of opportunities in the workplace, but it's also going to create new jobs and it's going to create new opportunities. And I think that women need to hunt those down and sink their teeth and claws into them as soon as possible. That is because tech is going to be one of the lastest and long-lasting industries out there. And the sooner we have women that have access to the tech industry and are able to embrace and become tech literate, you will see the standard and the quality of living in their communities sort of raise overall. So that's one thing I would say about that. The other thing I would say for the people that are in organizations right now that don't necessarily have sort of AI literacy, or there's not really the conversations being had, the opportunity is to become the AI advocate in those groups. So, you find problems or you see challenges that are currently in the organization and go, okay, are there any tools that exist that can actually help us address this? And then become the person in the organization that amplifies the power of AI and sort of builds a brand around yourself with that AI literacy. And I think that's a huge opportunity as well.
Okay, great. Who wants to go next? Okay, I'll pick somebody. Jennifer, go ahead.
Well, I'm looking through at a lot of the questions that are coming in, and I know we're not supposed to be getting to that yet, but the one that keeps coming up is, as we're thinking about using this as our, with our work, to be mindful of the amount of energy it does take to use to do a lot of the powering of these data centers that are running these AI queries. And we're going to talk more about that later in today's session. So I want to make sure that people know. I keep seeing the question come up, and I just want to make sure we're going to get there. I promise. So it is definitely something to be mindful of, and but we do need to start using it. We do need to start getting in and tinkering with it and learning more about it. And there was somebody that put in a lot of resources for different learning in the chat. They had listed out a bunch of places you can go for free to take classes on AI. So thank you for that. And I think we need to definitely start researching the tools that we're already using and start asking, how is AI being used in this tool? Where is AI coming up in my life? And talk to your internal IT folks and say, hey, is AI, are we using the AI piece of this tool internally? And to start learning about what internal practices are for your organizations in ethical use of AI for what you're doing, because there is an ethical use for it. And we're seeing that already. Like I said, I work in accounting, and our younger associates, they go in and they may ask ChatGPT to answer a client question, and then take exactly what was put into ChatGPT and drop it into a response email to a client without even double checking it. And just, we don't know what version of ChatGPT. Somebody pointed out that the paid version is much more robust, and that's because it has a lot more data to pull from, but it is not as current if you use the free version. So you got to make sure what data sets you're leveraging. And there's a lot of organizations that will have just their organizational AI. You can go in and query that way as well. So yeah, it's definitely play with the tool, but learn the boundaries, learn to figure out, how do I use it in my organization? How do I use it wisely? What type of information I'm putting in, and what type of data set is this particular AI version, whether it's ChatGPT or Jasper or Claude or Pi, what you're using, and what data set is it using on the back end to be able to fuel your answers.
Okay, Frederick.
I think one of the key aspects in the career perspective and how to amplify women's voices and careers has to do with networking and building strong communities. And something I found, and in my own observation, is that oftentimes there is less expenditure of time and energy into networking and into building strong communities with women than it is with men. And the reasons are multiple. It's like society is kind of stacked against you because you're oftentimes caregiver, but also oftentimes because there might be a self-perception of being not contributing to a community enough, or not contributing, or not knowing enough to go out, network, and talk with people, not knowing enough yet to engage effectively. And so therefore, I think that's where AI can be super helpful in actually very quickly getting over that feeling of not knowing enough, and maybe brushing up, learning more, getting deeper into subject matter to feel more comfortable in being present and active in communities and in networks. So I feel a lot of the amplification is really through these types of communities as you have here. And I think AI can make people individually feel more comfortable in engaging and being active in these types of communities.
Okay, great. Let's see. I'm wondering if we, let me just check our expert mode. Voices. Okay. Okay, there's one more question here. It's how can AI drive value to companies, customers, and people? And Frederick, you're on to kick that off.
To unmute. Yeah, so in my perspective, actually on that topic, I think the value it can drive most proximately to companies, sorry, is that it allows people across the organization with an AI first mentality to gain more bandwidth. So to shed a lot of the work or move faster through work that is time consuming but not very value adding, right? As the example I mentioned earlier with creating a statement of work or a business case, or there's many other examples in everyone's day-to-day job that allow or could be accelerated, and where you realize that you're not really adding value to it. For customers, evidently that's a similar situation, and that's the first application that you see everywhere of AI, is to allow customers to find information, navigate your organization, understand your products, engage with your services on a 24/7 base, and much more effectively than traditional customer support services are able to provide. And the same thing is actually within organizations for the people and services internally, where you can navigate much more effectively. Sorry. Now, the point though, these are all performance enhancing options, and they're very evident and proximate. What is maybe more interesting to consider for all of these factors is your own expertise. The reality is that most models or all models function by with a simple rule: is garbage in, garbage out, or quality in, quality out. And the reality is that however good the model is, it will really depend on your expertise, how good the output is and how effectively it can be used. So if you know what to ask a model, if you have expertise in the domain, and if you have expertise in people management, ideally even, you know how to ask, how to delegate. And that creates tremendous value for the organizations. And many organizations are just starting to understand that effectively their biggest asset right now is a senior expert, whatever your expertise is, who has some people management skills, means knows how to delegate tasks and to communicate effectively, and can apply that effectively to generative AI and become a super user or be a super user in generative AI. Those people are incredible assets, because with current AI technology as well, particularly with the new agentic AI technologies, meaning entire teams of virtual teammates, if you want, you can have one single senior expert who is a power user effectively make an entire department of virtual agents work effectively and become not just 4 to 10 times more effective, but to the order of 100 times more effective. And it's incredibly empowering, because that efficiency can be transformed into more iterations. So it's not just faster in terms of shipping, but you can then create more iterations. More iterations of a product or any project means more options to choose from, less errors, more security, more opportunity to bring in diverse voices and to make something more inclusive. It also allows for these for organizations to have more options for more different segments of customers. So when I can be faster in the production and in a lot of my work, I can actually up the quality exponentially. I can up the inclusiveness, the creativity, and I can be more personalized in the products that I put out there. So that's why you don't hear actually a lot of companies shouting from the rooftops how much AI they are using. And I'm thinking particularly of the Bay Area, but across the board, because they're implementing a lot of these tools right now. And the moment they are working, they give them such an incredible competitive advantage that they don't necessarily want to disclose this to everybody. They're looking to really move ahead and stay ahead in a fierce competition that is out there. So if you're not hearing a lot of it, it's because the amplification of quality, of productivity and creativity and inclusivity is disproportionate for the companies that are fully embracing it. The key of all of this very long answer is really realize that the successful implementation of AI depends on your expertise. Like that is the absolute key part of the entire success model is the senior expertise in a certain field. And if you do not embrace the AI, you're just basically putting you out of this target segment that organizations are really vying for right now. Senior experts with advanced generative AI knowledge to make the organizations thrive.
Okay, that's quite a statement. Jennifer or Joanna, do you want to follow that for a couple minutes?
Sure. Definitely competitive advantage. And I think we're going to see, my perspective, I work in sustainability. I help companies with being more sustainable. And a lot of companies right now want to do this in their work. They want to incorporate sustainability into every aspect. They want to measure their carbon footprint. They just don't have the internal resources. And so they normally nominate a person who is passionate about the environment to help work on these projects for their organization. And so they don't necessarily have the sustainable background or knowledge on how to calculate a carbon footprint. And a lot of the software out there to do this is costly. So there's lots of great AI tools that are coming out, that are going to be coming out in the next year, that will help companies do this for a fraction of the cost, if not free, to come in and very user-friendly walk through how to find out what data you need to calculate your carbon footprint. Because we all know, particularly here in California, we have a lot of regulations that are already signed into law that are currently working on being implemented. California State Bill 219, which is a combination of 253 and 261, for, basically reporting your carbon footprint. And while it's for companies that are $1 billion or more in revenue, the trickle-down effect for those companies, those large companies trying to measure their scope 3 emissions in particular, is going to trickle down to the small and medium-sized companies who don't have internal sustainability people, who need to leverage AI to be able to calculate their footprints or issue reports on climate-related financial implications for their business, right? There's not a lot of people out there that know how to do that type of work. And, these AI tools, you can go in and put in your business, put in your geographic location, put in what types of products you make or services that you have, and it will automatically forecast and project what your climate-related financial implications will be for this year, next year, 5 years, 10 years. It has very powerful forecasting capabilities. So it can really help you with that type of data and take and flip that to financial data, and being able to take your financial data and build forecasting models, or your marketing program forecasting models, right? Whatever you do, AI has that beautiful forecasting capabilities that would take us weeks to do, right? It can do in a matter of minutes.
Okay, great. Joanna?
Yeah, something I'm constantly thinking about is the balance between leveraging AI and leaning on AI to the point where you forget how to do your job without AI. And as a writer and a marketer, this is a balance, this is a fine tightrope I'm always walking, because creativity and critical thinking certainly still has a place with you, and you have to have an independent, almost like separation between you and the ChatGPTs of Claude of the world, to be able to think about what they're producing and think if it is definitely the right choice for you to embrace in that moment. And so I would stress that leveraging AI for everything you possibly can is the right thing to do in this moment, particularly where we are as a workforce. And also that the skills and techniques that are going to be celebrated long, into the future are going to be creativity and going to be critical thinking and analytical thinking skills, because you're still going to need those qualities. And so being able to sort of, I'm just looking at this comment in the about basic AI skills in the resume, or how you're reflecting this kind of stuff in your resume. You have to show both right now. You have to show that you can think independently beyond AI and also use AI for the right reasons and for practical reasons as well. And so yeah, I think there's different ways to do that. I mean, we can go into resumes in a minute if it makes sense. But I think showcasing your skills as a fully fleshed human being and also showing that you can use AI they're just both important right now.
Okay, that's great. I think there's one more part to this, because I want to open up, let's see, we're supposed to go to a 5-minute question and answer period here. Okay, minutes. Okay, I think let's go a little bit into the cautions. We've talked it up a long time. Can we do the section on cautions, and then we'll open up the 5-minute Q&A, because we've got a lot of Q&A showing up. Okay, let's see. Frederick, would you like to kick this one off? And particularly about original material for those that are original writers, I think is a very important question.
Well, I was actually wondering in that sense if Jennifer or Jen.
Oh, okay. We can switch to Jennifer. Would you like to speak to that one, Jennifer?
Yeah. Basically, don't put anything into these external, like a ChatGPT. If it's an open sourced AI program, don't put anything in there that you don't want the world to have, because anything you're putting into AI, it automatically remembers and it catalogs it. And you may even, when you put in a prompt, you might see the little updating text saying updating database, because it's taking what you're putting into it and adding it to its knowledge and database. And so if you're taking your original, maybe you're writing a nonfiction book and you put it in there, well, now everyone has access to that nonfiction book. So so there's some authors that have gotten kind of in trouble very early on, having drafts suddenly available on ChatGPT for folks to read of their books. Yeah, so and same thing with personal data. You do not want to put your name or any personal identifying data into the system. Client names, client data, that sort of thing. Any identifiers. Try to, when you build out your prompts, which is what you're typing in to the AI system, and to have it generate something back, make sure it is generalized enough that you're not giving away any specifics, right? Like that if you want to plan an itinerary for your vacation and you say, I have 4 kids, these are all their ages and these are their names, and yeah, don't do that. Just say, what is a kid-friendly thing that we could do? And you really want to be careful with that. It's the same as, I know a lot of people don't even like putting pictures of their kids up on social media. And you'll see a lot of people putting pictures of their kids, but with like the emojis over the face. So, but we'll go tell AI all about their kids, any health information, you just be very wary on what you're putting in, because you're basically posting it on a board for everyone to see, or at least search.
Okay.
And that's not what you
I'd
want.
like to shift to Joanna for a question, because so then how does the original writer protect their original work? I mean, we know not to put anything. I think that's the dilemma.
There's a few things here, because one of the things I'm more concerned about is that writing becomes incredibly flat, right? And you have this, for so long in my career, content was king. And the more that you were able to like boost content out there, and you can put content on social media and you create reports and intellectual property, you're strengthening your brand because you're creating something that is hard to create from expertise that only you can create. That I think is going to die very, very quickly if it already hasn't, because the writing, the way that you can produce content now, you can do, you have content in abundance within seconds, and a small business has the same capacity to produce the amount of content as, say, an enterprise company with AI. So there's no differentiator there, which in one way is exciting for those small businesses. In another, it means that the writing itself becomes extremely formulaic, extremely boring and flat, because AI is providing you the cleanest version of whatever that can be, and everyone's sort of responding to the same thing. So again, to my point before, is I think what's going to happen is the commodity around content, or the value that we currently place in it, is going to diminish really quickly. Humans are going to get very bored and very sick of the type of content, that formulaic content out there. It's going to dilute how we sort of consume information in general. And the people that are going to be ahead of the pack, or the brands and the businesses, are going to be the people that don't sound like AI, that sound hyper casual or hyper eccentric, or something that just puts them apart from that really formulaic AI content. And so that's what I mean when I say don't lean in so heavily into AI that you don't even know yourself outside of it. You have to keep some fresh creativity that, you've siloed to yourself, because that will be your value and your commodity in the workforce far longer than ChatGPT will be.
Okay, great. Okay, we're going to break for 5 minutes, 5 minutes of questions. And Vivian, have you been looking at questions? And I've been looking at questions. So can we, let's see, I think, are there any questions that you would want to share with the panel so we can get the audience involved in this?
Yes, one of the questions that was in the chat is, what are the best methods to cross-check AI-generated response to ensure they're accurate, unbiased, and not influenced by unreliable information circulating online?
Okay, who would like to go first on that one?
I mean, I would say basically the same way you would go about cross-checking any other data that you would search on the internet. A lot of it is you want to make sure that whatever data it's pulling, you're getting it to, when you build out your prompt, you can actually tell it to cite its sources for any of the data that it pulls. So as it pulls the data in, it will then give you a footnote with all of the sources. And you can go back and see which sources are more reliable from the other, and go look at, make sure that it actually pulled the data in correctly. So it's basically the same way you would do it as a Google search. But you have to make sure that you tell whatever, ChatGPT or whatever regenerative AI that you're using, that it is, ask it to footnote and to give you all the areas that it's pulling and citing things.
Okay, great. Vivian, another question?
Yes. How do we word the basic AI skills on your resume And what are some non-tech skills that are becoming a requirement right now?
I would really like to defer to what Frederick said here in the comments around moving away from that traditional resume, because I think that, for myself, LinkedIn is my resume, and reaching out to people and networking has been how I've gotten jobs. And so I think that this concept of like brand building around yourself as a professional needs to sort of extend beyond resumes these days. So Frederick, I'd love to hear more about what you said about this portfolio.
Mhm. Well, I mean, I put an example in here. This is really it's painful in a way, and we see this with a lot of students, and I see it certainly also in personal circles. We are at the beginning of massive waves of layoffs, and there's not going to be jobs on the other end. And we already earlier this year, Microsoft went out and said most CEOs, or over 66% of CEOs in spring, would not consider hiring somebody that doesn't have AI skills, for example, generative AI skills, right? And so the point being is exactly crystallizing in this question: how do I demonstrate it? And the people that are being recruited still, beyond the networking, I see really being recruited around their capability of demonstrating publicly what they are able to do. Right. So this is a good example I shared there of just some random person working at Google. And it's certainly a highly curated website. But the core point here is that with generative AI and tools like LinkedIn, there's people that need certain skills, and organizations that need certain skills can easily find you if you put yourself out there. And people that start putting themselves out there in the sense of demonstrating and building things and on their website, on their LinkedIn profile, however, are reached out to, which is kind of the first and preferred way to recruit. Only for positions where that doesn't work would you default into an open call or recruitment, right? Where you post a job posting. So you do network. If you can't find through network, you do basically headhunt. If headhunt doesn't work, then you do an open search for somebody. And this at high speed, if you want. So you already, when you apply to a job that's publicly posted, in the third tiers, I mean, they didn't find somebody in their network, they didn't find somebody through headhunting. Now they need to kind of cast a wider net. So I think to your point, the practical way of doing this is indeed investing not only in your own personal job performance and really acing it at your job, but really put time aside for your own documentation of what you're doing, documenting your successes. And it's easy now with generative AI tools and so on to create these types of personal web pages and demonstrate your portfolio, and at the very least demonstrate it on your LinkedIn profile. I've seen that work much more and much better than the standard way of applying, if you want.
Okay, excellent answer. Okay, so we're going to close this off because the last section is specifically about the application of AI to sustainability. So we'd like to make sure we do that, and then go ahead.
Might I add one thing?
Okay. Okay.
And this is maybe coming from somebody who's like immigrated to the US and first generation and so on, but still being in a relatively privileged position. I've been late, but I've been able to get coaching and get access to coaches. And it is absolutely transformative. And I just know that this is I know from personal experience and observations and from the research that's out there that this is one of the things that is really extremely rare to give access to women to. Just in general, that's not a reflex that most organizations have. It's not a reflex that I have seen women particularly actively asking for. And so you can, of course, use generative AI as a coach, but also really, if you're in a position and you're looking to move up, to move forward, ask for getting access to coaching. Ask for coaches at anywhere you are in your career. People do it up to the highest levels of organizations, and I don't know of any person that was really successful sustainably that hasn't, in the last probably 10 years or so, fallen back and asked for and gotten professional and executive coaching. So that it's really a critical part, I think, for career development, particularly mid-career to upper career.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, excellent comments. Okay, so let's take a 5 minutes on this answer. I'm gonna, since we're running out of time a little bit, what are your strongest recommendations to the professionals in climate change and sustainability about applying AI? What's the number one thing you would say to them? And we're going to start with Jennifer, and then Joanna and Frederick. Okay, we'll go in that order.
Strongest recommendations for those in those areas is just to get in and start using it, and really taking a look at AI, particularly for those folks who are using it, researching the tools and really kicking the tires on it a little bit. Make sure that if you are using a tool for carbon footprinting, that you can look at the emission factors and what emission factors it's using to do the calculations. Make sure that the data that it's pulling can be auditable, right? Because there's going to be a high level of assurance needed for a lot of these reporting for carbon footprinting. There's a tool that is almost complete. They're putting the finishing touches on it, but it's called Expect AI. That's completely free for businesses to use, and it shows the emission factors, it shows the auditable trail, and there's a lot more tools in the works that are doing this as well. So don't just use a tool blindly. Get out there and poke at it and muck around and stuff, but put it through the paces first. Really check and make sure that particularly the emission factors are correct, and that's using the GHG protocol. And yeah, do your homework and due diligence the same way you would other tools.
Okay, excellent. Joanna.
Yeah, I think one of the ironies of productivity tools is that you just fill your excess space with more stuff, right? And so what I would say around AI is if you're planning to use it or you understand the value in using it for your productivity, take a step to truly understand your challenges, not try and use it in a way that you think is going to make your life easier, and then suddenly you're just doing other stuff, and everything becomes just as busy or just as confusing as before. Identify maybe 1 to 3 key challenges, either about your life or your workplace or your career, and actively go after those, because there's too much stuff, there's too much information, there's too many tools out there just in general, that I think you can get fatigue just from trying to crack the nut. And so I think that's really important, just in general. And then I had another thing and now I've forgotten it, so maybe Frederick, you go and then I'll go. Okay, again.
I think particularly in sustainability, one of the critical aspects is to understand how much of an absolutely profound industrial revolution we're getting into with these technologies, which means that sustainability is not in many cases on top of the mind of the CEOs. Sustainability, it's survival. That's the key aspect. And the sustainability perspective is accentuated where it is a business need, or it brings an advantage. So there's a lot of talk about how wasteful and how much energy consumption there is around AI, and therefore we shouldn't use it. The reality is that that's one of the biggest sustainability areas right now, because it's costing companies inordinate amounts of money all of this quote unquote energy consumption is money for them. So they are more invested than you can possibly imagine them. I mean, the large tech companies from NVIDIA to Google to Microsoft and so on invested more than you can imagine in lowering the energy consumption, which is already happening like exponentially. And it will soon with technologies like quantum computing and fusion energy and superconductors actually not be an issue at all anymore. We're driving towards completely green technologies at high speed. The point being of all of this is that it's at the same time a high point for sustainability because there is this huge business need to stay competitive. And at the same time, it is also a very low point because in this fierce competition, there's really no time and money to spend on extras, if you want, and bells and whistles. So I believe there will be much less window dressing and much less investment into positions and in initiatives that are for PR purposes. So if you're anywhere near that, it's going to be tricky. However, there's a huge opportunity in the really business of sustainability. And I think that is important to read into and spend a lot of time getting knowledgeable about what is actually, how sustainable is AI and how is it being implemented in the sustainability and climate sector, and not shy away from reading the technical stuff and getting knowledgeable about the technical aspects of it.
Okay, I think we're going to have to move on. But I think those are great comments. And so we're getting to almost the wrap up here, but I'd like to have another 5 minutes just for or 1 or 2 questions, another couple questions that we could answer. And then we want to do a poll and the closing. I think Julie is going to do the closing statements. Vivian, do you have another question for the panelists?
There was a question, sorry to interrupt, Vivian, that I'd love to answer.
Okay, go right ahead. Go right ahead.
It was about trusting the paid versions of ChatGPT, etc.
Okay.
I wouldn't. The short answer, I think that, tech, particularly in the US, is largely unregulated, and tech companies, time and time again, particularly the large ones, have shown us that they have a loose relationship with the idea of privacy, and have a big machine funding their way, which is data, and your data is extremely important and valuable to them. And so I would just err constantly on the safe side and not share anything with ChatGPT, particularly especially the paid version, that you don't want out there in the ether.
Okay, whoever's found a good question. Vivian, do you have one now?
I can actually just follow up quickly on this. Conversely, your company might have a corporate account that they provide to you. And so you can evidently, the hack that Joanna shared, you can have generative AI analyze the terms and conditions. But generally, if you have a corporate account through your organization, the data is much more secure. Evidently, you still want to be careful. But if you triangulate between the guidance from your company as well as the terms and conditions, and you have environments where you can be very safe as well in terms of usage. And that's how most corporations that embrace it are evidently moving ahead very quickly, because they just create an environment that works for them and that is safe enough for their data.
Yeah, that's a closed loop system, so that you work within your company's system, but it doesn't push the data back because it's closed within your company. So a lot of companies are creating their own AI tools internally for folks to be able to leverage in that way. I also saw a lot of questions coming up around, is AI sustainable? And right now, no. And it's just as Joanna answered earlier for that other question, the short answer is no. Google, Microsoft, Amazon, they've all done really big investments in solar and wind to help power their data centers in AI. They're starting to look at nuclear plants and bringing on some of the old nuclear plants that have been shut down previously. They're actually turning them back on, and looking to build more nuclear plants to be able to bring them in more what they call clean energy. We can debate that term later, but clean energy online so that they have enough power for the data centers, that isn't coming from, oil and gas and coal. But there's obviously risks to having nuclear plants around, that are big, very relevant risks. So it's not perfect yet, but I think over time, hopefully we will come up with something better.
Okay, well, we're approaching the time that we have to wrap this up. But before we do the final closing comments, could we have the closing poll? We want to see where the audience is after hearing all this information and getting questions out. So could we have the closing poll? What level do you want your AI experience to reach by the end of 2025? I'd like to see where the audience sits with that question.
And while we're polling, there's just something very pragmatic hack for that I found for non-technical people to stay ahead of what is happening is to actually systematically watch the keynote talks of developer conferences from Microsoft, Google, Apple, and NVIDIA. And so, for example, the Microsoft Ignite just came out. That's always like an hour and a half, and they happen usually 2-3 times a year, or like at least twice a year. And only by watching that in spring and in fall, you can really stay ahead of what's happening, especially what's coming down the line. For these developer conferences, they show what is currently there, and they make the announcements of all the things that they are rolling out. So it's incredibly condensed information and super valuable for your career progression to just look down the road.
Okay, everybody wants to get out of basic. Good, we did our job. Intermediate, yeah, it looks like reaching for expert is it in something, where you know your strengths and build on them and then pump them up with AI. That is our closing recommendation to you. All right. And I think I'm going to turn it back over to Julie.
All right. Well, yeah, I'll take it from here and close it out. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Really loved the chat. I mean, this was a very active, curious, and opinionated chat. So I really look forward personally to downloading that after and taking a read through. Thank you to our panelists, Jennifer Harrity of Sensiba, Joanna Carson at Intuitive AI, Frederick Worley from UCLA, go California, and our moderator, Darlene Crane of CraneWorks, our sponsors, champion corporate member for Solar and event sponsor Product Rehab. I think I'm waiting for some slides to come up, but I will say to get your cameras ready because there should be a QR code coming up. Yes, here it is. Be sure to visit our merch store. If you get your phone up in time, you can take a snapshot there or just go to our website and use WCS 15 off for a discount. Advance the slides. And thank you, of course, to all the volunteers that helped put this program together. There's a lot going on behind the scenes. Obviously, Darlene and Denise, Marika, and then event volunteers Vivian, Parvati, and Ashley. Thank you very much. You can advance. And obviously give us your feedback. We can advance. And we have a great presence in the virtual world on all of your usual social media channels. You can advance. Thank you, everyone. Once again, have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday. Bye-bye.